What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2024 Chevy Trax 1RS. Up front is a 1.2-liter turbocharged inline 3-cylinder, and down below is a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this Chevy Trax because it is all new for 2024. Chevy has finally given the Trax a next generation, and this is it. And so I'm excited to share with you this very new car and tell you about all the upsides and, of course, some of the downsides. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me, you can head on over to my website, zackprato.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form, takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that 1.2-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder making 137 horsepower. Well, it's nothing to thumb your nose at. It makes decent power, and Chevy's used this in a number of their products in the past. Most recently in the Chevy Trailblazer and the Buick Encore GX, of which I do have a review of the GX I'll leave at the end of this video. But it's an interesting little engine. It does make decent power, although it is a 3-cylinder, and it actually has a wet timing belt. The timing belt is submerged in oil. Apparently this is for fuel efficiency, but something you don't really find on cars. I'll put the fuel economy numbers on the screen that the EPA estimates, and you can be your own judge if you think those are good or bad. Now, like I said, paired to it is a 6-speed automatic, and that's a big drawing point for this Chevy Trax because it's not a CVT. A CVT means continuously variable transmission, and Chevy's known for using those throughout a lot of their products, and they're not very reliable. So this transmission, while it might not be bulletproof through and through, it's going to give you a lot less headaches than a CVT would. Now, last but not least, the Chevy Trax is front-wheel drive, and they are only front-wheel drive. As of right now, there is no all-wheel drive offered in the Chevy Trax. Now, Chevy says the reason for that is that 70% of Chevy Trax buyers purchase front-wheel drive versions, so they didn't really see a reason for it. I personally would have liked to have seen all-wheel drive. I think that's a big misstep from Chevy's standpoint, but hey, I don't run the numbers up in Detroit. So how does it feel to actually drive the Chevy Trax? Well, I think this is also one of its big selling points. It drives really great. It's decently responsive, good visibility out the front, decently calm and collected ride. It's a little road noisy, but for any vehicle in this segment, that's gonna be the thing. And so overall, the driving experience has been pretty good, and I'd say puts it towards the top of its class, at least in that one category. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a mix of physical and digital gauges. Off to the left is my tachometer and fuel. Off to the right is my speedometer and coolant temperature. And then in the center, I do get a little customizable screen. I like this. However, upper trim levels do get the digital gauge cluster, but also people are reporting that those can sometimes be glitchy. So I guess I'm happy to have functional gauges rather than not. On the steering wheel, on the left, we do have our cruise control settings and our heated steering wheel. You can get adaptive cruise if you go up the trim levels, but this does not have it. And off to the right, I have my voice commands, phone options, and volume. The steering wheel is also available at the 1RS level and not available on the base model. It has the flat bottom, a little bit more of a sporty feel. Off to the left, I do have a giant climate control vent, my headlight switches and gauge dimmer switches. Moving on to the door, we have lock and unlock, power mirrors, and power windows, of which also seem to have an issue. The owner said that randomly several windows will just not work. Now, they seem to be working for me here today. That's just what he has told me. Moving into the center, we do get our infotainment screen. Again, another advantage over the base model, this does get a slightly larger infotainment screen with wireless CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, which is fantastic. But other than that, it's Chevy's basic system they've been using for several years now. It's pretty easy to use, nothing really too crazy. I don't have any cool or crazy apps either, but you don't need it on a little vehicle like this. And here is the backup camera in case you were curious. Down below that, we have 2 climate control vents and our climate controls. I absolutely love how clean, concise, and simple these climate controls are. As much as I do like Kia products, they're sort of switch back and forth. Now they're here, now they're not system for their climate controls is kind of wonky and touchscreen and unnecessary. This is super straightforward. I do have heated seats, again, included in that 1RS package, which is a very nice addition. Then we do get a 12-volt outlet, USB-C, as well as USB-A, like that little little mix. And then we have our automatic start-stop on and off button and our lane keep assist button. This does have the driver confidence package, which is basically lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring, and features like that. Moving on to the center console, we have the shifter off to the left. It's a standard shifter. You put it in and out of gear. It's not a spin dial. It's not a touch screen. It's not a push button. It's just a standard shifter that works, and I really like that. But off to the right, we do have cup holders, so we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the Chevy Trax 1RS. And unfortunately, it fails. Most vehicles in this segment do, so not really much of a surprise. Then we have our power parking brake, little cubby, and center console with nothing in the center console at all. Now we gotta talk about the seats. The seats are cloth. The base model and the 1RS get cloth. Everything else gets a mix of cloth with the fake pleather, leather, whatever you wanna call it. The owner opted for the cloth because he does have pets. This is going to be a pet mobile for getting his dogs around, and so he didn't want their claws scratching up the fake leather. They're okay. They're not the most comfortable thing in the world, but I also feel this way about the Bolt. I feel this way about several other Chevy products. They're not the most comfortable, so something to keep in mind. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2024 Chevy Trax 1RS, and I am very impressed with the rear seat space. Sitting up straight, my knees aren't hitting the seat in front of me. My head isn't hitting the ceiling. That's fantastic for a small vehicle like this at this price point. This is a fantastic space back here. The cloth carries on from the front seats. Again, like I said, the owner has dogs and pets, and he didn't want the leather getting ripped. Nothing really to write home about otherwise. I don't get a center console or anything like that. But really nice to be back here, and I wasn't expecting that. One thing I would have liked to have seen was vents for the rear passengers, but at this price point, not a lot of vehicles include vents for the rear passengers, so par for the course, unfortunately. Let's hop out. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, around the back of the Chevy Trax, and here's the key. This is one of those pop-out keys, which is kind of interesting. No power tailgate here on the Trax. Little button here, you pull it up. And once we are back here, we do get a spare tire, interestingly enough. There it is. But overall, nothing really too crazy beyond that. But like I said, those seats, when they fold down, they're completely flat. And that was why the owner of this Trax purchased this over the Corolla Cross, because there's actually a step down, which isn't really good for storing big items. So very cool to see that in the back of the Chevy Trax. And here it is, for all its glory. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and this is finished in nitro yellow metallic, which is an almost $400 option. I like it online. I think it's a little duller in person, so I can't say I totally love it. However, I do love the exterior design of the Chevy Trax. I think it's very handsome. I think the rear end is actually styled really well, because it's not overly styled. It's not like every person had to get their brushstroke put on the rear end of this Trax. It's simple, it's straightforward, and that's all I can ask for. However, as you'll notice, this actually is a lot longer than the outgoing Trax. However, it is a little bit shorter dimensionally, and I do want to point out that the 1RS starts the 18-inch alloy wheels, where the base model gets smaller wheels. So that is available with the 1RS. You can also get a sunroof with the 1RS. The owner did not want one because of longevity's sake. Most sunroofs end up leaking over time and causing issues, so although they're nice to have, for longevity's sake, no sunroof is safer. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the Chevy Trax 1RS from the 2024 model year? Well, I have to say the driving experience is pretty good and enjoyable. I've been having a good time driving the Trax, and I wasn't totally sure I was going to. I also really like the styling of it. I think it looks handsome, it looks good, and although I haven't driven the other trim levels, I know the active top trim level looks good as well. I don't have any qualms or issues about it. I like the driving experience and the looks. However, my enjoyment soon ends after that. The owner said that he's had several glitches in his short ownership of this vehicle, just over 300 miles. It's a brand new car. Like I mentioned with the windows, sometimes they randomly don't work.
So here's the next morning, right? Nope. No window for me today.
The backup camera sometimes randomly changes what it shows you.
So the reverse camera has decided to operate differently on this now. Nope, now that's working properly. See the difference? Unbelievable, this thing.
And as I mentioned, the owner doesn't have it, but from all that I've read on the forums, the gauge clusters can be a little glitchy. Now pair that up with a 3-cylinder turbo that might be pushing out more than it should and might not last forever. I start to scratch my head ever so slightly with the Chevy Trax. I wanted to love this thing. I wanted to say Chevy's on the right path. They're making something affordable. It's fantastic. You should get one. And by all means, if you do end up picking one up, they're not bad, at least at a driving and looking perspective, but sometimes you just can't shake that GM-ness, and I just can't help but feel like the Corolla Cross is a better value. It is more expensive, but it's going to be a similar size, it's going to be more reliable, and I would just have to worry about it less. Same thing with a Mazda CX-30. I'm a big fan of those. So personally, I think there are better options than the new Trax. But hey, what do I know? I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Carl for letting me take out his new Chevy Trax. I've reviewed a bunch of Carl's cars in the past. He's absolutely awesome to work with, and I'm sure I'll be working with him again in the future. Very knowledgeable, very down-to-earth guy, and I appreciate him a lot. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.